the first of 4 sessions of the Making Your Money Work for You series. I'm Hoong Nguyen Yap, she, her pronoun, Director of Community Investment at the Women's Foundation, California. The foundation is a statewide publicly supported foundation dedicated to achieving racial, economic, and gender justice by centering the experience and expertise of communities most impacted by systemic injustice. We are excited to host this program as part of the California Women Rising, a grassroots training and virtual programming for all self-identified women and gender nonconforming people to advance social change in California. Our 4-part series on Making Your Money Work for You is part of the Foundation's feminist education and economic justice work. I'd like to now introduce our trainer, Saundra Davis. Saundra is a U.S. Navy veteran, financial coach, speaker, educator, and consultant who is nationally recognized as an expert in financial coaching field for her work with community-based organizations that focus on asset building for the working poor. Saundra is the founder and executive director of Sage Financial Solutions, a San Francisco Bay Area-based organization that develops comprehensive financial capability programs for low and moderate income communities throughout the United States. Welcome, Saundra, and thank you for sharing your expertise with our community tonight.
Thank you so much, Hung. I'm so glad to be here. And thank you too, Malcolm. I don't know where you went, but thank you too. So this is a highlight for me. Today is my mother's birthday. She is no longer physically here with us, but for me, being able to honor her in this way and on this day is really very profound for me. Thank you, Anisha. I'd like for you all to go ahead and type in the chat box there. Where are you joining us from? Where are you joining us from? Let us know where you are. I'd also like to know, what is one thing that you want to make sure that we talk about in our time together? What is one thing? Now, keep in mind, this is the first of 4 sessions, so, some stuff we'll get to later. But what is one thing that you want to make sure that we don't miss? A question that you might have, a topic that's been something you've been pondering or curious about. This is the time. So please do let me know those things as well. The first thing I want to do is just thank you for being here and taking this time out for yourself. Often we think about our money situations as some task that needs to be done. And what I'm going to ask you to do during our time together is to focus on, how do you want to be with your money? I see some of the comments and questions coming in. Nina, if you could keep an eye on some of those for me, that would be great. So one of the things that I would like for us to do to start is to just get here, putting aside the things of the day that, maybe draw our attention away, and the things that might keep us from being fully present in our time together today. So to the degree that you're willing, I'd invite you to just sit where your posture is both erect and relaxed, not stiff, but also really feeling your seat on the chair or wherever you're sitting, or if you're standing, feeling your feet grounded on the floor, and allowing your hands to just rest either by your side or in your lap. And noticing your breath. Feel free to either close your eyes or lower your gaze. And really be just present for a moment. No need to do anything, just be here. And notice where your breath is most present. It might be the inflow through your nostrils, or the rising and falling of your chest, or the expanding and contracting of your belly. Feel your shoulders melting towards the floor and relaxing any tension in your jaw or in your forehead or any place else that you might be holding right now. As we prepare to come back together, I'd invite you that if this is available to you, wiggle your toes and wiggle your fingers. And then do a deep roll of the shoulders. Really give yourself that little inside massage. And then let's come on back together. So here we are. And during this next about an hour and a half, we're going to talk about what is happening with us and money. Now, tonight we're focusing specifically on our cash flow, how money comes in and how money goes out. We're going to talk a little bit about budgeting. We're going to talk about how to generate more income and those things. We have 4 sessions scheduled for you, and we're talking about all of my favorite topics. And I'll tell you a little bit more about why they're my favorite topics. This is kind of a snapshot of why you're listening to me. I joined the Navy at 17, spent 8 years in active and as a reservist, and I got out of the Navy broke with a son. And the mother that I mentioned to you, that it's her birthday today, who I loved so dearly and still do, had this habit of spending every dime she ever made. If she made it, she spent it. And I don't recall ever having a conversation or being aware of her saving. And I did exactly the same thing. And unfortunately, I also taught my son, not by my words. Now, my mom didn't say to me, and I didn't say to my son, hey, sweetheart, I want you to spend all the money you make and be broke and tired like me. She did not say that with her words, but she said it with her behavior. And I picked up a lot of that same behavior. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I actually learned anything at all about money. And that's what you're seeing here in that education block. I was tired. I was working in the nonprofit sector, where we make all the big bucks. And I was 5 years in to working in Oakland, and 5 years and 2 ulcers. And I was burning myself out from all of the directions, right? And I just had to stop. And so I was talking to my partner, and he said, well, and I had no idea what I was going to do, no idea what I was going to do next. And he said, well, become a financial planner. And I literally had never heard those words. I never heard the word financial planner until I became one. And so I went to a bookstore, and the book said, if you're going to hire a financial planner, hire a CFP, a certified financial planner, or better yet, someone with a master's degree in financial planning. So what you see right here is that MS in financial planning. And what I did was I learned everything that the wealthy know, their financial planners know how to acquire, build, and transfer their wealth. And the point of that was to be able to have these kinds of conversations with people who are everyday folks, everyday folks like me, like my family, like all of the folks that I know. And, people who didn't have multi-millions to invest and still wanted to live a good quality of life. So the lens that I'm bringing to you is someone who didn't learn any of this young. I'm not particularly good with money, even now with a financial planning degree. We'll talk a little bit about why that is in just a bit. But I'm an entrepreneur. I've been self-employed for more than 30 years. I've been a financial coach for more than 15 years. I'm a founder of a nonprofit agency that trains people who want to be financial coaches. I've actually trained to be a coach. So in addition to starting my own program, I've learned how to be a coach. So rather than just kind of putting that hat on and calling myself that, I actually am a meditation teacher and an executive coach in addition to financial coaching. So that's the lens that you're going to notice that I bring. So while I know a lot, I also recognize that you are the expert in your own life. And so I want you to hear that. I have information, and I have resources, and I have tools, and you are the expert in your own life. And so whatever it is you decide to do, I'm going to invite you to do the thing that is most resonant, that makes the most sense for you in your situation. So in an environment like this, you're going to learn as much from each other as you do with the conversation that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share with you some facts and figures and some all of that stuff. Sure, absolutely. But that's not what changes us, right? That's not what changes us. And so I'm going to be inviting you to think about when you set a goal for yourself, even if it's hard, what part of you digs deeply enough to make it happen, no matter what the obstacles are, no matter what you have to overcome. So that's the part of you I'm inviting you to tap into during our time together, today and in the subsequent sessions. That part of you that when you've made a decision and you know what you want, there's nothing that can stop you. And in order for that to work, we have to first have a no shame zone. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, again, with the feet on the floor or wherever, whatever's available to you, to take a deep breath, and on the exhale, all of the shoulda, woulda, couldas, the wish I had, I'm sorry I did, the money I loaned that I didn't get back, all of the things, we're just going to let that go. We're really going to let that go. So let's do that all together. Deep breath in. And let that go. All of the judgment, all of the shame, and every single time that happens, I'm going to ask you to do it again. When you find yourself judging you, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. It doesn't help you to be abusive when you've done something that wasn't satisfying. It doesn't help you to be abusive when you think you should have known. Knowing better does not always mean doing better, but we can't do better if we don't know better. So we're going to do a high level snapshot of this topic. And you're going to ask questions and I'm going to answer them to the best of my ability. And we'll see what happens. We're going to be doing a breakout about a third of the way through. And when you're in your breakouts, those of you who are Spanish speaking and you're with Sandy for certification, you're going to stay in this room. When we send you all to breakouts, you might have something that has to click to say you joined the room. If you are one of Sandy's Spanish speaking crew, stay here. Everyone else, you'll be breaking out into your small groups. And I'll tell you what you're going to do when we get there. But I just like to, what we do in coaching called design the alliance. All right, so I see a boatload of questions and things that we want to make sure that we cover, and Nina's going to help me keep track of those, but we're going to jump right in. Some of you may have been with me, when was that, Jay? What, December? When did we do that? December? Yeah. So you may have heard some of this before, and one of the things that I'm going to ask you to do in this time together, if you were with us before, this time I'm going to ask you to go even deeper. So whatever you accomplished, whatever you faced, whatever you experienced at that time, let's take a little bit of a deeper dive. If this information is completely new to you, start wherever you are. So the first thing, let's just get a grip on this. Let's face this reality. Every financial decision we make is informed by our past. So tell me, what's the first financial decision that you can recall that you ever made? What is the first financial decision that you recall that you ever made? Go ahead and type. Nice, Juana, nice. Now, when we think about how we've made those decisions, did we get what we wanted? So remember I mentioned that, for me, my mom spent and I spent. My mom's thinking was, you can always make more money. So one of the things that she did is that she had multiple jobs. Guess what? Fast forward 20 years later, there have been times in my life that I have had, up to 3 jobs at one time. Now, what's the downside of that? Go ahead and type for me. What's the downside of this 3-job thing? And this is back when, pensions actually existed, right? What's the downside? I was exhausted. I was exhausted. I was a young and single mom, and, I was doing whatever I could to make ends meet. I didn't understand that my spending was creating a lifestyle that wasn't satisfying. I didn't understand that the choices that I was making was pushing me further and further away from the thing that I wanted most. And one of the things that I share with people is that, I had more money in my son's video game collection than in his college fund. It wasn't that I didn't care about college. I just didn't understand. I didn't realize that every dollar I spent was moving me further away. Now, that's not to say that, we shouldn't spend. That's not the point at all. So this isn't, again, about shaming or blaming or any of that, but this is understanding that every financial decision we make makes perfect sense if we know what we believe. I believed there will always be more money. Now, I did not catch on to that little detail that I might have to have 17, 18 jobs in order to get that more money, right? And so I didn't equate that to saving. So to Jennifer's point, there was no time for family. There was just no time for my life. And so it wasn't until I became, literally in my 40s that I began to understand that trade-off. And I know it might sound like, really, it took you that long? Yeah, it took me that long, because I was operating from the emotional aspects of how money worked in my life. I saw something, I wanted it, I worked hard, I was tired, so I deserved to buy the things that I wanted. Now, here's the thing. I didn't realize that deserving was causing me more and more stress. So I just wasn't making the connection. And that's what caused me harm, right? So now, do I still spend? Absolutely. But here's the thing. What's different now is I keep my wants small so that I keep my needs small so that my wants can be outrageous. And so the car that I drive is older than some of y'all. My car is a 1998 and has 358,000 miles. And the reason is the car is not a priority for me. There was a time that every 2 years I bought a new car. Who knew they last longer than that, right? But they do. Who knew? And now I understand that I was buying a new car every 2 years because that's what my mom did. And my mom didn't know that, the guy who she learned this little tidbit from was actually leasing cars. He wasn't buying them. He was leasing them and turning them in every 2 years because he was a salesperson. So she was making her decision based on false information. And then I learned it from her. So I just kept on doing the same thing. So now that I know better, I can choose to do better, right? And so for me, a car is not a big priority. Travel, huge priority, huge priority. So you'll see the savings plan that I use so that I can have my travel budget. But the thing that I'm asking you to think about right now is, what does financial success mean to you? You can type it in here for me, but more importantly, write it down for yourself. Type it into your phone or wherever it is that you're going to keep track. What does financial success mean to you? And then how will you know when you've got it? How will you know when you've got it? So Cynthia, I hear freedom. Tell me what freedom, and you don't have to tell me. When I say tell me, I mean tell you, right? What does freedom mean to you? And how will you know that you've got it? So that's what we're going to get into today. That's what we're going to get into. And what I'm going to be asking you to do before we leave each other is to identify one thing that you're willing and able to take action on. and commit that to yourself, writing it down and deciding what you're going to do about it and what help you might need from us. So we call this little thing taking aim. And I thought I was being clever, so of course I made it into an acronym. Assess, where are you now? What's going on right now? And then inquire more deeply, remaining curious, right? So Dorethia, is it okay if I take your example here? The being good money manager, can I play with that one?
Sure.
Lovely, thank you. So if we were going to assess what it means to be a good money manager in retirement, what does it mean to you to be a good money manager in retirement?
It means for me, not having to worry about making a financial decision that I know I feel that's in my best interest. I can do it without worrying about it.
Lovely, lovely. Now, what are the things, now that's the assess, right? What does it mean? What does it mean to you? That's that assess piece. Now the inquiry is, what steps will be necessary? What are some of the things that you already know will need to happen in order for you to reach that goal?
Hmm. Savings, having enough in savings, uh, definitely not depleting it, and having in retiring having something to live on comfortable,
Okay.
having things in place where I can make comfortable decisions
Okay.
and feeling good about it. If I want
Okay.
to go on a trip, I can go.
Okay. What else is important to you in retirement?
Uh, Having a place to live and having enough to live, uh, you know, eat, sleep,
Mm-hmm.
ride, and
Travel and travel.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, and
What?
sharing and still being able to see other people in need and having a little to share on the side with others.
Yeah. So having enough to meet your needs and sharing with the community that you care about.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. What information will you need to be able to do this? What's missing?
I guess having somebody like you, that's why I'm taking this class. I'm just, that's my start, picking up information about money because I haven't always been a good money manager. But I find someone once told me, because I used to be like your mother, someone once told me that you can't be spending all your money. You got to start saving because I didn't even think about that. And, and then I realized that there was a connection to saving and in the future that the future wouldn't look all that good if I wasn't trying to save and manage my money.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I remind myself and share with others is that every time I put away even a dollar, every time I put away literally every single dollar, I'm looking out for future Saundra. I'm
Right.
looking out for future Saundra. So for me, because I'm self-employed, there's nobody else looking out for me. There was a time that people had jobs that had pensions. They were going to have a monthly amount that they could depend on. They were going to have usually full and accessible health care. There was all these things that people could count on. And they used to call that the three-legged stool. And the three-legged stool was what your company does for you, right? Pension plans, medical, that sort of thing. What the government does for you, Social Security, Medicare, those kinds of things. And then what you do for yourself. And that three-legged stool used to make up our life in retirement. The problem is now it's more like a bar stool, right? Now we're kind of on our own. Companies seldom have pensions. They often will have, a 401k or a 403b or a contribution plan instead of a pension plan. And so even that, you know, what you do for yourself. Now they may match, that's what your company does for you. And the government, you know, we hear a lot of noise about Social Security and what it's going to be and what it's not. But for right now, you know, Social Security is what it is. And most of us who are on this call will still have access in our lifetime. And so when you think about the stuff you already know and what you need to know, I heard you need someone you can trust to ask good questions. You need to have a savings plan. What else do you need to be able to prepare yourself for being a good money manager in retirement? Doretha, did you leave me?
I didn't know that you were still directing your comments.
Oh yeah.
To the
what
group,
else
but
do you
that
need?
me too.
Say it again.
So you say what else? That's why I didn't answer.
Yeah.
What else do I need?
Yeah. What else? What other information or resources might you need to be able to do this?
You know, I need a good legal resource, just in case I come across some things like my student loan. Something about it's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to get some legal help managing it, because one of the things that's stopping me from trying to, you know, look, people ask me to say, because I'm at the age where I can retire, but people ask me now, they say, well, when you going to retire? And I think, you know, I have to deal with my student loans. I'm not going to go out with a student loan over my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't have that in retirement.
Yeah. So let me say this, you are not alone. I too, did I mention I got a master's degree in my 40s? I too still have student loans. And one of the things that I would invite you to do is to hold off and let's see what's going to happen right now, right? Do what
I
you
know
got to
that's
do.
right. I'm waiting.
Hey, do what you got to do to keep your credit right. Okay. Do what you got to do. Pay on time, all that stuff.
I got that.
Yeah, hold off on giving away your cash until we find out what's going to happen. Okay. And I mean that for everybody, right? Hold off until we know what's going to happen. If you're paying, do that. If you're not paying, do that. Just don't make any rash moves. And certainly don't buy into any, we can help you pay your student loans off fast. Don't do that. When programs to help come out, programs to harm do too. So always keep that in mind. Scammers are usually one step ahead of the actual reputable work. So make sure. So then this last thing, think about, and Doretha, I'm still with you. Think about what behavior you might need to modify in order to be good with your money in retirement.
I cut back on my spending and be real conscious about what you're going to spend it on and if you really need it. I mean, it's got to be something that will really make a difference in my life for me to get it. I mean, that's with clothes. I don't have to go into certain department stores and buy things. I can find other resources to get what I need. And even, you know, cutting back if in eating, you know, you ain't always got to eat out. And one way of losing weight is to cut back on the portion size of what you eat.
Yeah. You okay. Now, Doretha, you're all up in my life now. You're all up in my life talking about portion size.
Because I find out that, you know, how you do what you do, you can always do it in a way that costs you less.
Yes.
And finding out different type of resources where you can go to eat, dress, like you said, in cars, you know, knowing how to maintain your car, so that you can have it. You don't always have to buy.
Lovely. Now
so those are the kind of things that I've come to hold on to and know that what I need to do. And that's all a part of money management.
Absolutely.
And like
Absolutely.
I said, I saw that something came up and this money management was right at the right price, free.
There we go. Free is good.
Free
So
is
listen,
good.
this is what I'm going to ask you to do. Make yourself a note, and this goes for everybody. We've been focusing on Dorethia's topic because it was a good topic to focus on this AIM idea. Let's everybody just take a moment. What is the thing for you? What is going to be that financial success that you identified for yourself? So just let's make that assessment right now. What will it mean for financial success? What do you have to have? And then that what do you need to know? What information do you need? What resources or tools do you need? Sometimes it's more money, and that's okay too. Write down whatever it is. And then what behavior might you have to modify in order to get where you want to go? So if everybody would just take a moment to jot some notes down about what that will look like for you. And then we're going to pivot a little bit to do a bit of a dive into some of the tools and some of the things that we can do to focus our attention on managing our money. So this happens to be one of my favorite quotes. This is the author who wrote the book, The Little Prince. And he said, and many other people have said it many ways, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And so before we go into this topic, I want to make sure that we're distinguishing the difference between a goal and a task. Between a goal and a task. Go ahead and type for me. What do you think the difference is between a goal and a task? What makes a goal a goal? A goal is usually long-term. It can be, you can have short-term or intermediate. It's going to be measurable. Absolutely. There's a date. And the task are activities. Thank you, Lindsay. The task helps us get to the goal. So a goal can be short, intermediate, or long-term. Usually short means within a year, right? And then intermediate is anywhere between that year to 2 years to 5 years. And then a long-term is usually 5 years or longer, right? And so, and that's kind of just standard, words that people use. It gets to mean for you what you want it to be, right? So for me, I have some immediate goals. And then I have some short-term goals. So immediate goals are, I have a couple of debts that I really want to get rid of right now. The pandemic caused me to keep my cash. So things that I would normally do, like paying my credit card off in full, I haven't done over the past few months, over the past almost year, because I didn't want to give away all of my cash. Now I'm kind of seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm willing to make sure that I pay that down. So I've got the immediate goal of being consumer debt free. And then I've got the short-term goal, which is to rebuild my emergency fund. Then I've got an intermediate goal, which is to rebuild my travel fund. And then my long-term goal is to have a retirement plan that supports, I saw someone type here earlier, that supports 100% of my current income. So those are my goals. Take a moment to think about what are some of yours, some immediate or short-term, some intermediate, and then some longer-term goals. Now, if you have a longer-term goal that is, something that you want to achieve, like purchasing a home or something like that, you may have some shorter-term goals that help you get to that long-term goal. So for instance, you may have the long-term goal of buying a home, and long-term may mean 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it means to you. And then you may have the shorter-term goal of improving your credit, right? So improving your credit is a goal. Checking your credit is a task, right? And so those are the distinctions that we want to make, and making sure that we're really being, sometimes we have trouble getting to our goals because we're not really clear about them. So we want to make sure that we get really clear. When we think about money management, we're talking about managing both our income and our expenses. And that's just basically our cash flow, what comes in and what goes out. And then maximizing those resources to help us build towards our financial goals. Now, the key here is that we want to make sure that we're noticing not only how much, but also how it flows, how the cash flows. For instance, here in California, we have the benefit. Now, I don't know about the electric companies down south, but here, PG&E up here in Northern California, we can have them change our bill to a stable amount all year long, right? So my electricity bill, I think, is $120 a month. Now in December, it's likely to be a little higher because it takes, which of course, like, why would they do that at the end of the year? But they do. They average it out over the year. So I have a stable monthly bill. So I'm able to align my income with my expenses. So I can match the dates of my expenses or my bills with the dates of my income. This is really important to me as a self-employed person because I never know one month to the next what my income is going to be. If clients pay slowly, then I got a problem. I got a cash flow problem, right? And so we want to make sure that we're not only looking at what's coming in and what's going out, but the timing of what's going in and what's going out. So before I leave this slide, what are some of the questions that you have about cash flow, managing what's coming in and what's going out? You can talk or type. I think everybody has the ability to unmute yourself. What do we want to talk about before we leave this slide?
Saundra, while everyone is thinking, there is a question that was just put in the chat box. How can you improve credit without income? Is this possible?
So it can be, and you want to use extreme caution. Becoming an authorized user with someone who has a good credit score and is managing that credit line item well can help increase your credit score. Now, this is really an area that you want to be super, super cautious. The first thing is the credit is still theirs, but you also want to make sure that you're not putting them in a bad position. So for instance, if I allowed someone to be on my credit card, then they show up as an authorized user. That can help. Another thing that can help, Experian right now is doing a thing called Boost. It's relatively new. I feel mixed about this. But what they do is they allow you to link your bank account. So it shows if you're paying rent, it shows if you're paying any bills at all. And that good reporting can actually, that's why they call it Boost, can actually boost your credit score. The main thing about having a credit score is it's your report card on how well you manage the borrowing that you've done. Now we're going to talk about credit more deeply in a future conversation, but just kind of for this question, it's challenging to increase it if you don't have an income, because usually your credit is related to your income. But being, piggybacking is what they call it, can be helpful, but please do that with extreme caution. There is no financial choice that you should make without considering all of the factors. And this is one that's a really big deal. It can be helpful and it can be harmful. So Catherine, my concerns about Boost, I don't like anybody that wants that much information about you. One of the benefits of the credit bureaus as they are now is they don't see your bank accounts. They see your credit profile. And once you allow them to into your bank accounts, now they're seeing, I just have a problem with our data being used that way. So I understand the benefit. There are also some resources that you can use where you pay for your rent, to be counted on your credit. I'm not a big fan of those things. Dorothea, paying your expenses don't always show up on your credit report. So that's important to know what shows up and what doesn't. So only certain things will show up on your credit report. And unless you make a mistake, like for instance, let's take this example, your cell phone bill. Your cell phone bill payments don't show up on your credit report until you don't make them. When you don't make the payment, then guess what? It's on your credit report. Your PG&E payments or your electricity payments anywhere in the country usually do not show up on your credit report until you're not able to pay them. So you've got to be really, really clear. Lending circles done through Mission Asset Fund are absolutely a reliable resource for building your credit. Mission Asset Fund is a stellar organization, and that is an excellent tool for building. Now, the problem is that you do have to make contributions, right? So think of it as, the community lending. This is, tradition in many, many cultures. In African countries, many West African countries, it's called a susu, tanda in Latin American countries. Different groups call it different things. And Susan, it's a lovely product, but it is a product. But this is one community-based resource that is trustworthy. I can say that with certainty. That said, say you're in a group and each month, you're putting in your $100. So the way the lending circle works, there's 10 of us, and each one of us once a month puts in whatever we agree. Usually it's about $100. Sometimes it's $10. Put in your 100. The first time I'm in a group with Bia, the first month it goes to Bia. Then the second month it goes to Dorothea. Then the third month it goes to Susan. And then the next month it goes to Lindsay, right? And so it circles that way. So what happens is when you take the money out, it's a loan. When you put the money in, it's a payment. And that payment is what's being reported to the credit bureau. So that in that way, but if you don't have an income, you may not be able to participate in something like that. Not that limitations from them, you just may not have the income. So yes, no, not Latanda, no, it's a susu in Ghana. And in many usually indigenous cultures, where there's not necessarily accessible financing available. So, all right, so that part around our income and expenses. Now, I know that this can feel a little heavy, so I want to break this piece down. There are 3 basic documents that give us a snapshot of where we are with our money. Our cash flow is what we've already done, how money has been spent, what came in, what went out. Your balance sheet will tell you where you are right now. And then your budget is your plan, not only how much you spend, but the timing in which you spend it. The nice part about a cash flow is it tells you what has already happened, but it's not going to help you if you don't have a budget, right? Because you're always looking in the rearview mirror. And those of you who drive, driving only looking in the rearview mirror is a recipe for disaster. So we want to be looking forward and looking backwards. Now I'm going to show you the website where all of these free documents are. I love this website. Everything there is free. Do they get you to try to buy stuff and click on things? Sure, just don't do it. Just don't do it. There are a lot of lovely things here, but I just want you to know about these statements. You may not have to do them all, but I want you to understand them. I don't want you to be afraid of any financial decision or any financial topic. Some of the things we talk about today, you may need to hear them again to take action. You may want to, talk independently with a financial counselor or a coach in order to get help with these kinds of things. But remember, we're remembering that no shame zone, right? No matter where you are right now, this is information to help you make good decisions. So making money, we're getting ready for our breakouts. Making money, there's all kinds of ways. And I'm going to tell you, the world today, people are making money in ways that it just never would have crossed my mind some years back, right? There's, of course, employment, working for someone else. There's self-employment, right? There's retirement. We talked about this earlier: pension, Social Security, savings, and investments. And then there's benefits, and benefits come in many, many ways. The important thing about making sure that you apply for everything that you could possibly be eligible for is that every dollar that you make in benefits is money that you don't have to take out of your employment, self-employment, or whatever, right? So workers' compensation, if you've been injured on the job, universal basic income. Several cities in California are now doing a pilot. If you hear about UBI, or universal basic income, sign up. If you are eligible, sign up. It is a test, it's a pilot. We really need to have as many people doing this and being successful around this country in order for this to become a thing in the United States, right? We need a universal basic income in the United States. Now, wherever you are on the political spectrum, I have no judgments about that. I couldn't care less about your political affiliations. If you look at the research on universal basic income, societies that have this do better. Our children do better. Our elders do better. We all do better because people have a guaranteed level that they know that they can count on. And it doesn't stunt enthusiasm, as some might say. People still work beyond that. It's not going to, look, it's not going to pay for your vacations, right? But it will keep food on your table, right? And so those are the things that we want to look at. Veterans benefits. I happen to be a disabled vet. I get a check every month for an injury that they caused me when I was on active duty. That actually pays my mortgage. I know I'm getting ready to make y'all a little jealous. You sitting down? Everybody sitting? Everybody okay? My mortgage is $897 a month. I know. I'm almost ashamed to say it, but I'm so proud because I know, right, Deidre? TH, you're funny. Right, so here's the thing. It wasn't always. There was a time that my credit was so bad that when I bought my car, that same car that's sitting out in front of the house, my interest rate was 25%. 25%. And I improved my credit. I started saving. I put down the lump sum to bring the car payment within something that was more manageable, and then I refinanced it. Same thing happened with our mortgage. My mortgage used to be about $1,500. I got the payments down. I paid, got it down, refinanced it, and now it's $897. And my VA disability pays my mortgage in full every month. So every dollar from something that you're eligible for can take the pressure off. And the reason I say this, I can't tell you the number of times I hear people feeling ashamed to apply for benefits, feeling ashamed that they're on public benefits. The bottom line is, those of us who are working and paying into these systems, pay for people who need them, right? The taxes that we pay for these services for the people in our communities who need them. And so we want to make sure that if you are eligible and you need this income, that you apply. Supplemental Social Security is income that happens if you are very, very low income. So that's a supplemental Social Security income. And then there's TANF, temporary assistance for needy families, and SNAP, which is the supplemental nutrition program. There are also food banks. There are also all of these other places that if you're eligible for and you go to a food bank, guess what? The amount of groceries that you get, that's money you don't have to spend, right? And so I'm really inviting you to look at all of these things as potential sources of income. I'm going to answer these questions when we come back from our break about refinancing and all of that. So, but this is what we're going to do. Are you ready, Nina, for us to go to breakouts?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, gang, you're going to be away from me for about 5 minutes. What I'm going to ask you to talk about, brainstorm all of the things that you can think about, just like a fast and furious brainstorm, all of the things you can talk about generating income, turning hobbies into income things, anything you can think about, something that you've heard, anything, share it. You never know who you are helping out. So go to your rooms. I'll see you in 5 minutes. You might have to click on something. Go ahead, Nina. I'm sorry.
Yes, there'll be a box that says join your breakout room, and you'll be sent there automatically. And just a reminder, for Spanish speaking folks, go ahead and ignore that request, stay in the main room so that you can stay on with our interpreter, Sandy. See you all back in about 5 minutes.
All right. So those of you still in this room, we're assuming that you are Spanish speaking. And Sandy is going to help you. The main thing here is to share any ideas you have about ways to increase our income. Ways to increase our income. I'm going to be quiet because my Spanish is not great. Feel free to take over the room, Sandy. But slight flex here. Her group was amazing. All right, let's hear what made it amazing. Type for me, but Tawana, you're going to have to talk. So unmute yourself. Let's hear. And there's two things I'm going to ask you to chat. Something that you thought was a great idea, and then, or something you'd like to try, something you heard that you'd like to try. You can type or talk, but Tawana, we're going to hear from you first because you bragging. You saying you're not bragging, but I'm seeing a slight flex. So bring it.
My group members were amazing. So it was one, something that was interesting that we heard, and two, something we'd like to try. Something that I thought was interesting that we heard is one of the people in my group has fruit trees in their yard. And so they were saying one of the things that they would love to do is participate in like a farmer's market. And so that they're bringing fruit from their own labor, right? Literal fruit of their labor to a farmer's market and like share that and just kind of like have that be part of the way of giving back to the community and things like that. So that was something I thought was interesting. Something I'd like to try. Another person in our group mentioned we need to be thinking about different ways in which we can trade, because that person actually ran a farmer's market. And so they said something that people don't know is that a lot of the times, and correct me if I didn't catch all of this right, because I'm so enthralled by the conversation, I may have missed some of it. But like, I think that they were explaining a lot of the people who work at farmers markets don't pay for other goods at the farmers markets, they trade. And so they were saying, we can also be thinking about what kinds of things that we have that we can offer in trade with other people too.
Nice, nice. I'm seeing that. I'm seeing Notary Republic. I'm seeing a chemical-free hand sanitizer. Yes, sign me up. I'll buy. Investment clubs, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, and I'll talk about that, Susan, as well. So what else? What other stuff? Like utilizing a hobby. Crochet is back, y'all. I don't know if you all are seeing what I'm seeing, but people are wearing the things. People are wearing like out in crocheted bikinis and all kinds of things out there. Now I'm a knitter, but I'm not good enough to be selling it. But it is, you know, that's certainly one thing. Deidre, skincare, honey, drop the deets, let people know.
I will definitely do that.
Absolutely. You know, these are the things that we can do. Someone gave piano lessons, love it. And that's really what it boils down to. We can begin to look at ways to use what we've got. There's also, you know, if you're a really, really good writer or editor, there are so many people out now who are selling their services as experts who may not necessarily be great at writing or editing. So think about the thing, Fabiola, you might have to email me. Think about those kinds of things. What can you do? And then here's the thing, it's not enough to know how to do it. Look, we are a community of at least 110 people right now. We started out with like 122. And so there are people who are latched on to what we're doing. Let everybody know what you have to offer and what you need. What you have to offer and what you need. And we can do those kinds of things. Absolutely. Put those email addresses, put those websites. Oh, quesadillas, yes. So those are some of the things that you can do. Now, here's the thing. Often when people are talking to folks, the first thing out of their mouths are cut expenses, cut expenses, cut expenses. That may be what you decide to do. And sometimes you may have cut everything possible. So only you know your situation. Only you know your situation. If you've already cut everything that you can cut, then you're going to have to look at how do you make more? We'll talk about that a little bit. One of the things that you can do to help you figure out about expenses is to take a look at your bank or your credit card statements. Try to get 2 months, maybe 3, and use 2 highlighters. You'll notice I don't use language like wants versus needs. I think that sets up some shaming that I don't think is helpful. But what I invite you to do is take a look at the expenses, use 2 different color highlighters, highlight your living expenses. What does it cost you to operate your home and your household? And then lifestyle expenses. What are the things that make your life better, right? And so for instance, in my household, I'm not a great cook. I don't enjoy it. It is not fun to me. My lifestyle expenses, although food is a necessity, this is one of the reasons I don't do wants versus needs. How I consume my food is a choice. Now I can go and get one of the boxes. I'm really a big fan of the Marley Spoon box. I've used Every Plate. I've used Dinnerly. I've used like 5 of them over the COVID times. And that's less expensive than me swinging by the nearest soul food restaurant. There's actually a restaurant called Soul Food, and spending $70 because that's about what I spend when I go in there. So I can spend $25 to $30 on a food box that I have to cook, or I can spend $70 and get food made. Now, I'm not telling you I do the cooking box all the time. Today, on my way home from my vacation to be with y'all, I even dressed up and put on earrings for you. I stopped and picked up food. And so what I do to manage those types of expenses is that I decide how many times a month I'm going to eat out. I used to try to keep it within a dollar amount. That doesn't work for me. What works for me is to decide I'm only going to eat out 8 times a month. That's it. Now that might seem like a lot, but if I don't do that, then, I'm cooking and I'm not doing that. So one of the things that I urge you to do is look at the living expenses, lifestyle expenses, put a question mark by the things that you don't know what it was, and then put an X by the things you wish you hadn't spent. I don't know about you, but there are things I can look around here in this house that, number one, some of them I bought and bought them again because I forgot that I bought them the first time. And then there are things that still have the tags on. So those kinds of things, I have my granddaughter sell them for me, and she puts them on like Poshmark or something like that. So there are many ways that you can manage how you're living with your money. The main thing that I encourage people to do to make it easy to manage their money is to separate their bill pay account. Let me annotate here. Separate their, let me get a nice blue color here. Separate that bill pay account from your daily or discretionary spending. So what happens for my bill pay account? I don't do anything outside of my house. I don't take an ATM or debit card anywhere. I don't carry a checkbook. Like, who has a checkbook anymore? But I don't carry one. I set up auto pay from my bank to the payee. I don't let them come into my bank account, right? I do it the other way around. from my account to the payee. And then I reconcile using either pen or paper software. I happen to use You Need a Budget, YNAB. It is not free. Mint is free. I believe Personal Capital is also free. And your bank may do that as well. It's called an account aggregator. And that's where all of your credit cards, all of your bank accounts, everything comes into one account so you can see all of your transactions in one place. I was not a big fan of Mint when it first came out. It is owned by Quicken or Intuit. So it is a reliable and as safe as anything else is going to be. I mean, they can break into our banks, they can break into anywhere these days, but it's as safe as possible. All right, so what else do I want to say? The discretionary spending, now that's where the ATM or the debit card is, and that's a separate account. I'm going to show you what that looks like here. So I have my money. I have income that goes into the spend account, right? And in that spend account, I've got bill pay and I've got discretionary. Now we actually have a third account that is my partner, my man, his discretionary account. So we have separate discretionary accounts so that nobody has to die, right? And the reason that we have to do that is because I don't want him in my business about what I spend, and I don't get in his business about what he spends. But we decide how much goes into this bucket. Now then here's our savings account. Now these are our periodic expenses. This is the money that we know that we are going to have to spend. We know we're going to have to spend it. We know that we're going to have to register our car. We know that we're going to have to pay for insurance for 6 months, and you pay 6 months for the whole year. We know those things are coming. If you know that there are expenses that you don't have every month, you want to set aside money for those periodic expenses because you know you're going to have to use it. You don't want to treat that as your emergency fund. Those things aren't emergencies. The only thing that makes them emergencies is when we haven't prepared for them. So having a savings account that's specifically for those periodic expenses can really serve two purposes. It serves as our overdraft, and it also only to bill pay, not to discretionary. And then it also just makes sure that we're putting away a little bit for those periodic expenses that we know are coming. Now, then there's our real emergency fund. Now this we're not expecting to have to touch because, I mean, how often do we really have an emergency? Most things are periodic expenses. Quite frankly, even the car breaking down. We know if we got a car, I'm sorry, by a show of hands, is there anybody in who has a car and they've never had a car problem? Anyone? Anyone? No. If you have a car, you're going to have a car problem. So that's where we want to build up this periodic expense account because we know there are going to be car problems. So that's the difference between periodic expenses and emergency funds. Let me pause here. Any questions, comments, or thoughts about this? Anything here? So what I do, excellent question, Rebecca. So the investment account, picture that as a bucket out here, right? This is where once these are funded, then anything else is out here in investments. And the reason for that is that I've got to be cautious that I don't invest something that I can't afford to lose. When we're saving for a future expense. We're investing, we're putting money at risk in hopes of higher return. So we'll talk about investing on our investing session, but that's where that is. So we want to make sure that we've got our bills covered. We've got our day-to-day living expenses covered. We've got our periodic expenses safe and our emergency fund safe before we put money in investments. So what I do is once all of these are fully funded, then that's when I go to the investment accounts, and we'll talk about that in a follow-up session. Barely manage a checking and savings for a son. So once it's automated, great question, Susan. Once it's automated, it's actually quite easy. So what I do is I put money, when I have my income, everything goes in, everything goes in here. And then I know how much I can transfer there. Now, here's the thing. You asked earlier, how do we decide how much? That's where, remember when we looked back at what's happening with our cash flow here? I'm sorry, this one. That's where this comes from. So I look at what is my living expenses and then what are my lifestyle expenses. Lifestyle equals discretionary because I can choose how I spend it. So that's where that amount comes from. Namita, that is my personal pocket money, sweetheart. That lifestyle expenses, that's personal pocket. The key is staying in pocket and not getting out of pocket with that pocket, right? So let me see another question. How do I find out how much of an emergency fund? So do we talk about this here? Yes, we do. Give me just a moment. Give me just a moment, Namita. So if we have to change something, if we want to make change, see, I was being clever there, right? We have to spend less or make more or a combination of the two, right? Make more, spend less, or a combination of the two. So reducing monthly expenses, revisit how we withhold in taxes. We'll talk about this in asset protection on taxes. Barter, we heard some folks talking about this. Turn a hobby into a business to make more, find a new or second job. Don't be afraid to ask for a raise, even, yes, in pandemic times. Absolutely, absolutely. Consult, teach, mentor, or tutor. There are different ways to make more. So find either one of the reasons we did the breakout groups for you all to hear from each other, right? Examples under discretionary budget. So Patricia, for me, discretionary in my household is gasoline, because we get to decide, number one, where do we buy gas? Where do we drive and how often? Food is discretionary, although it is a need. How I choose to spend is up to me. So food does not come out of the household budget, not even grocery shopping, not even grocery shopping. Grocery shopping is discretionary in our household. What else is discretionary? So of course, clothing, any vacations, any entertainment, all of those. So this is how I think of it. If I can choose to spend it or not, it's discretionary. So that's really, really what it was a game changer for me. And I'm seeing a couple of other folks are saying some similar things. If you can't choose, it's a living expense. Now, some people might say, well, what about cable, right? I don't know if it's a requirement in your household. It is in our household because my partner uses it for work. So, absolutely. It's a requirement here. So it's not an option here. Some people might say a cell phone is a want rather than a need. I think it's a need for me. It's not an option for me. So everyone gets to decide. And so when I said at the beginning that you all are your own best experts, I truly meant that. You and you alone can decide that. Now, if handling multiple accounts is stressful for you, don't increase your stress, right? Don't increase your stress. You can, the lovely part about the multiple accounts that you can aggregate them to the points that I'm seeing here in the chat. If you are with a bank or a credit union that charges you for your checking accounts, please negotiate with them or find an account that doesn't. I happen to be a big fan of Patelco. Patelco is where I have most of my accounts. They don't charge me for having multiple accounts, and so that's what I use. But I have something, I think I might have direct deposit for my VA. So that's probably why they don't charge me. So negotiate with your banks, and if you're not happy, move. The choices that you make for your money are up to you. And nobody gets to decide this with you. You want to question everything and negotiate. Now, a couple of my favorite resources are 360 Degrees of Financial Literacy. This is what the CPA's financial literacy site, and it's absolutely wonderful. Mint.com, this is that account aggregator we mentioned. A Vertex 42, I'm going to show you that in just a moment. So now this emergency fund, we talked about this a little bit. So money set aside for your emergencies. Your living expenses should determine the amount. Remember, there's living expenses and lifestyle expenses. The emergency savings, you really want that to match up with what it costs you to operate your household. So that's the important first step. The standard financial planning wisdom is if you are a one income household, 6 months. If you are a 2 income household, not the number of people, but the number of incomes, then 3 months may be sufficient. So think of it this way: tier your emergency savings, the amount of safety net, the amount of your insurance deductibles. If you're just starting out, cover the deductibles. If the car wrecks, if something happens in your household, cover your health insurance, cover your auto insurance, cover your renter's insurance or your homeowner's insurance. Make sure that you get to that bottom line safety net. And then that short-term setback, 1 month of your household expenses. Now, most of us are not driving to work right now, so we might not need to cover gasoline, right? So Deidre, that's absolutely, a lot of folks have moved streaming to TV to cut that. A lot of people are doing that. So that's that short-term setback. That's 1 month of your household expenses. And then the catastrophe, that is the normal range, what financial planners advise on the 3 to 6 months. 3 months if you are a 2 income household, 6 months if you're a 1 income household. I happen to put this in a taxable investment account. And the reason that I do that is that I actually have multiple tiers here. So I have about 5 savings accounts, right? Yeah, so, because that's a thing for me. Security is a big deal for me. What you will have is a toolkit, Holly, that has all of this information in it. Then this is my favorite way to save. This is the 52-week money challenge. Can you all see this? Is this clear enough? Okay, so this is week 17. We are right now in week 17, which means if you had started with me in January, you would have saved $153 by now. So the point is, week 1, you save $1. Week 2, you save $3. Week 10, you save $10. And so you'll see that getting higher all the way up to, at the end of 52 weeks, you have $1,378. You can start this anytime. Many people like me, I start it every year. This is what pays for my vacations. So I'm always 2 to 3 years ahead. So the money I'm saving today in this plan is for my vacation in 2023, because I've got to save for 2 years for each one of the vacations, right? Because I like, when I go on vacation, I'm not budgeting like that. So I know that I want to be able to spend that way. So this is one of my favorite ways to kickstart savings. It's called the 52-week money challenge savings plan. People call it different things. Some people actually do it the opposite, where they start at 52 and then go backward to 1. So you can do it that way as well. The amount's going to be the same, but you'll see savings faster. Let me pause for a minute. BAV is free. Okay, I don't think. How do we find a fiduciary? Let me know if that means a fiduciary as in a financial planner, or a fiduciary that manages for people who cannot manage for themselves. All right, and then the last thing that I want to say is that there are a couple of my favorite things. Americasaves.org is a wonderful place to learn how to make a plan. And then of course that 52-week money challenge. I'm going to pause sharing for just a moment, because now I want to show you, actually I'm going to stop sharing. I want to show you the website that has these calculators that I've been telling you about. Now this is Vertex 42. They have amazing, very easy to use templates. This one, the personal one, is for an entire year for a single individual. This family one is multiple incomes, including childcare and other family expenses. So this one's more detailed. And then if you're just starting out, my very, very favorite is this simple budget worksheet. This is just like the easiest thing in the world to use. Where the heck are they going to show? Okay, now they want to do that. So that's what they do. The stuff's still free. You can still download it, but I really, really love this. And what it does is it shows you a pie chart. You can actually even put in the amount of money that you want to save and it'll show up there. That's my favorite. Then they also have ones for business, you know, if you're bill tracker. So when you go to Vertex 42, you'll see all of these things. Use the one that works best for you. I like to start with the very easiest one. When we have our next session, we're going to look at the debt reduction calculator, but now I want to stop because I've only got 5 minutes and I want to make sure that I answer any questions that are time sensitive for this topic. Now, here's the thing. A lot of you are asking questions about investments and those kinds of things. We'll be talking about that in the asset building section of this series. What do we want to talk about this moment? We've got 5 minutes, go.
Saundra, I just wanted to bring it back to the refinance question. Does that make sense to answer now or at a later session?
It does. It does. So one of the reasons you're hearing about refinancing being so relevant right now is that interest rates are low, low, low. Now, here's the thing. You want to be careful because refinancing also comes with fees, right? And so this is the place where you really want to investigate. So let me show you something else. I'm sorry. I should have done this while I was in here, but I want you to see this. One of my other favorite websites is the CFPB, Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. Reliable, trustworthy information here, right? This is one of my favorite places. You see this buying a house, right? You see anything about mortgages, you can find this out here. So while it doesn't specifically talk about refinancing, what it does is helps you explore loan choices, right? Understand loan options, explore interest rates. This is really crucial. So please, you all, just keep in mind, you would not allow someone to walk up to your door and sell you something. Don't do it online. Don't, somebody sends you an email that says, refinance now, we got the best deal for you. Please, please, please make sure that you are investigating and you are protecting your wealth, making sure that you're protecting your wealth, because the bottom line is you just never know when something is reliable or not. Again, I'm a big fan of the credit unions. My mortgage is held with Patelco. Start with a trusted resource. HUD housing counselors are absolutely the way to go if you want to find out about refinancing, purchasing a home, first-time home buyer programs. We are so lucky in California. I know that it doesn't always feel like it, but the fact is, we've got community-based organizations do all of these things, right? Do all of these things. And Susan says, don't forget about the unclaimed money. Yeah, get your unclaimed money. I had some as well. And it's a couple $100s, but it's a couple $100s that you didn't have before. Here's the thing. Don't pay anybody to help you get your unclaimed money. There are people who do, these are public records. People do a search. They'll send you a letter that says, I can help you get your money. You can get your own money. You don't need their help. So keep in mind, investigate for yourself first. Trust yourself first. Even if you think you don't know it all, that's fine. None of us do. I got a master's degree. I don't know it all. I got a master's degree in money. I know more than I'll ever use, and I still don't know it all. So be kind to yourself. The AFCPE.org has people who are doing free financial coaching and counseling during COVID. If you go to their website, you'll see, find a financial counselor or coach, find the free one. They got the paid ones and they got the free one. If you ask for an FFC, a financial fitness coach, you will get the people who I have trained. right? So you know, these are some resources that you can use. We're going to be back together in a couple of weeks. And what I'm going to do is, if Nina, if you would save this chat for me so I can highlight the questions to make sure that I have some responses for all of these. We'll get those together so we can send the responses out. All right, I'm going to stop and breathe for a moment. I can hang here for about another 5 minutes if there's any lingering questions. If there are not, let's all breathe together. In and let that go. This time, let's hold it at the top. Breathe in and hold 2, 3, 4, and let it out. Be well, take good care of yourself. Please type for me, what is your takeaway from this session? Type for me, what is your takeaway from this session? And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Holly, bring that one back. We're going to talk about that in the next session. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you all so much. Where do I find the money saving sheet? Doretha, what money saving sheet? Which money saving? The 52 weeks?
Yes.
52 weeks? Yeah, it's gonna, the toolkit. Jay, Kieran, if he hasn't already gotten the toolkit to you,
No.
Yeah, ping him. Let's ping him and he'll get that to you.
Hi, Saundra. Did you already share resources about helping, besides like the Experian boost, it's helping reboost your credit score?
Well, we talked about that some. We talked about it mostly if there's not an income. Now we're going to be talking about credit in another session. So we'll do a deeper dive then.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes, Susan, you can get it together in your 40s, 50s, and even my, honey, I'm 60, still getting it together. So, you know. The toolkit will come from Jay and the Soul Train gang there.
And then one more thing, I missed the first 30 minutes. Is there any way to review the call again? Because I didn't see it being recorded.
Yeah, I can answer that, Saundra.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, you'll get a follow-up email from me, from Nina, with a copy of the recording and additional resources. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow. And then just a heads up that the link that y'all use to sign into this session, you can use that link to sign into our next session on May 12th, excuse me, May 12th.
Susan, tell all the people, tell your friends, tell the people who you're not friends with, tell them all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank
you.
you all.
Well, Saundra, thank you so much again. And we're over time, so I will let you go.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Bye.